she is selling the delusion. She's selling it. Right? Like, I believe it. I believe that she...
You know what the girlies say?
Yeah.
Dululu is a salulu. So, that's all she's doing
I didn't know you were on that side of TikTok.
Why wouldn't I be? Why wouldn't I be?
Oh, my God. So, yeah, I
You did not see that one coming either, did you? Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video. Of course, subscribe, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. My name is Adriel Smiley, a.k.a. AdrielSmiley.com, a.k.a. Adriel Smiley Official, a.k.a. The Godfather, and we are here with His Royal Highness, a.k.a. the Bunny, missing his crown, but still a king, King Grant.
Welcome back, people. Album Mode. And we're also here with our esteemed producer, Agent Zero, Patient Zero, Chris. We're attacking, or I feel like attacking it this time. It's like we're reviewing PinkPantheress's latest and greatest, because this is the only one. Her debut album, Heaven Knows. It's, I would say, PinkPantheress, a drum and bass, UK garage, pop artist is probably the best way to describe. She's an electronic artist.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, you covered all the bases.
She's an electronic artist. I want to put that, off rip, because anytime a black artist makes music, it's instantly, is it hip hop or is it R&B? Right?
Neither of those things.
And I'm like, I want to just set the tone right now. She's an electronic artist. Right? And yeah, so she's back after the heated Boys a Liar and Boys a Liar Part 2, where it's basically just like set the internet on fire. And it did cross over into real life. I would say Boys a Liar definitely crossed over into real life. I would consider PinkPantheress a hot on the internet type of artist. But I think she is, especially with Boys a Liar, and I think this debut album, it's the breakout. It's breakout time. And I think that's where she is right now. That's where we're leading up to. This is like debut album. I'm outside. I'm wearing the white dress, like I'm out here.
Now she's arrived, I would say.
Yeah.
I think this is her moment. I did want there to be kind of more of a push for the project, because I feel like we've been ready, we're waiting for it. And I feel like there should have been more hype, but more than enough, because we finally made it here. You mentioned her last project. To hell with it. You have it behind you.
This is my prized possession, by the way. You can only get that in the UK.
And they called it a mixtape.
Yeah.
So this, you mentioned it's her debut project. For anyone who heard our last review, the last project, it's a mixtape, okay?
Yeah, this is the album.
Very different, of course. Not the same at all. But we were a fan of that mixtape. You gave it an 8.5. I gave it a 7.5. And we said it was a no skips. So high praise from both of us. You mentioned it before. I have this list of music blends they have for her, and it reminded me of my music director days.
Okay.
And as a music director, you get sent all this music, and a lot of it is artists you've never heard of. And they do this thing where they try and say, sounds like similar to, try and get you excited, and you get some crazy mismatches, It's a mix between Johnny Cash and Future. And you're like, there's no way that's true. But they try and do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to list them off for you, and this is what it reminds me of. It says, various influences such as pop punk, K-pop, UK dance music, disco, garage, house, lo-fi, neo-soul, pop, and R&B.
I would say, what were the first two? Give me the first two again.
Pop punk, K-pop.
The pop punk, I don't see it. But everything else, yeah, I do.
This is
literally everything else.
This is one of the few times where a lot of those make sense.
Yeah.
She has cited Lily Allen as one of her lyrical inspirations. I'm sure many of you have no idea who that is, but tap in. Lily Allen was killing it at one point. But I understand the pop punk because she was in a cover band before she was PinkPantheress, and it was a My Chemical Romance cover band.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you didn't see that one coming. So that's where I kind of get like that pop punk style, but I think we should start, kind of with the production. I feel like that's what made her blow up in 2021 on TikTok. That's why we're here.
She's an electronic artist, so you know, talking about the production is actually extremely important to her artistry.
And I think first and foremost, this is the first time where it's not all her. You know, she has help with the production. How did you feel about that? You know, I guess, did you know that going into it? And once you realize that it wasn't all her, how did it make you feel about the production? Because there's some moments where it's obvious, which I'm going to bring up a little bit later, but just someone who's known for their production coming in as a producer. We see it in all genres where someone comes in as a producer and little by little it's less. We saw with Travis Scott and Utopia that just came out. Kanye's famous for it, where he came in as a producer and then things changed. But how do you feel about someone who, you know, her beats is kind of what blew her more than anything else, and it's not all her anymore? Yeah,
I think it's good for her ultimately. I think that her initial sound, fantastic. Love it. Right. And I think that evolution is important as an artist, as we tout, I feel like every single episode.
That should be its own thing that we cover.
Yeah, their evolution, just like but yeah, I think that evolution is important as an artist. I think that you can be a Kanye West type and just be literally like a genius mastermind when it comes to production, and always have a new idea, new aesthetic, new concept, something like that, always, right? But then there's people like, even people like Pharrell, like you recede a little bit and allow other people into the mix, right? We're talking about hip hop because usually that happens in hip hop a lot. There's very few like Jack Antonoffs in hip hop, you know what I mean?
No, and he stayed Jack Antonoff. Yeah. You know? So that, like, I think that hip hop is a great way to kind of illustrate this, because you're right, Jack Antonoff didn't become something different. He just stayed Jack Antonoff, right? So I think that's a good point.
So I think that it's good. I think it's good for her because it allows her to explore other genres. I do feel like she has the versatility and ability to do that, as she demonstrated on this album, but even on Boy's a Liar, right? To invite a rapper into what was up until that moment drum and bass UK garage space is kind of out of the box. So for her to be able to incorporate that shows that, like, okay, it's not just one thing. She is able to add new elements that are not things that I didn't think was going to be visible. You know what I mean? I wasn't projecting Central C. I was not projecting that in my PinkPantheress vision. You know, I was not seeing that.
That's interesting. So let's start there, since you brought it up. You thought that was a bit of a surprise to see Central C on this. I think that's so interesting. That was the one I was not surprised by, actually. Rayma on the intro surprised me more, but Central C is like,
Central C, so I get it.
But I'm like, she's a UK artist. You know, she's already had big features before. You know, I've mentioned a million times on the show how much money I know the label is pumping into her. And knowing how that label system works, you know, there was no way that we weren't going to see one of these big dogs. Like, to me, I was thinking Central C or Stormzy, but Central C was like, I kind of knew he would be the guy because younger crowd, you know what I'm saying, light skin powers. You know, I kind of saw that one coming. But what was different was, I think, the production on that one. That one is actually more the PinkPantheress kind of production that we're used to. And I like that because this may be the biggest song. So far, it's the biggest song that wasn't a single, I would say. But this, I think, will be the song that people remember from this project. I think 2 years from now, whatever it is, if you're not a PinkPantheress fan, this will be the song that, like, people are remembering, just because it's Central C. And I like that this is her sound. You know, I would hate for her to be known by the casuals for a song that isn't hers. And so to have Central C come into her world, I like that a lot. Yeah, me too. And I also, she uses this, I think it's the tabla on it. Shout out to Seam and Wayne, two of my friends that got married, who in their wedding, the music, because Wayne is Indian, right? The music that was playing had a lot of it. Right. And I'm like, yo, this shit is banging when I was listening to the music at his wedding. So to hear it get an addition in PinkPantheress' music, which is just, I felt like it was so out of the box. I felt like, what the fuck? What the fuck in a good way, though? I'm like, wait, what the fuck? And I've seen the response on TikTok about that. Like, there's people have been talking about that. So it's definitely a highlight. I think that, it's great for her. I do think that
when Central C comes in, it maintains the 2000s sunny, shiny. The synths are like literally like shooting off like stars. And then Central C comes in. He's able to exist. He's able to exist in that space of like a drum and bass track, but then you can hear like the song progressively gets slowed down until it actually kind of turns a little bit into a drill track where the hi-hats like start to do the skipping thing that we've been talking about. And it also shows how close, you know, what PinkPantheress is doing is to drill, right? Like, you know, drill's like borderline electronic music.
Drill adjacent.
Yeah, drill is borderline electronic music. But regardless, it was just a cool combination that I did not predict that. I just didn't predict that shit happening. I guess I never really thought how Central C would fit on her music. Like, I just couldn't see that.
That's interesting. I think that's how we're looking at this a little bit differently, because again, you sound way more surprised than I was.
Yeah,
about Central C being on this.
Yeah, because I think of her more of an electronic artist. Maybe you see her more of something else, but I'm just like, oh yeah, she does drum and bass.
No, she's 100% electronic. I think that's like the only reason you would think she wasn't is because she's black, and we talked about this before. A black artist does anything but hip hop and R&B, they find a way to put them in hip hop and R&B.
Yeah,
she's not at all in hip hop and R&B. But I don't look at drum and bass as so far from hip hop. There's been so many examples of hip hop artists working with electronic artists doing electronic music that I don't look at it as like, because she's not part of hip hop can't feature on there.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I thought about, is like her production has always been fire, even when it's not just her.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, a rapper who is talented can have multiple flows. There's always going to be a space for them. Yeah. On her music.
Have you seen the music video for that track?
I have not seen it yet.
It looks like an iPod commercial.
Yeah, I've seen some of the thumbnail and some of the clips from it.
Yeah.
Very much giving like, was that 2008 era? Yeah. Those Black Eyed Peas iPod commercials.
Yeah, where there's like his all white background and people are just like dancing in the sneakers. You see the colors flying. It's literally the same shit.
Yeah. Like, and I think that's a great choice, because there's a lot of people who are probably around her age who don't remember those commercials. They were literal like kids, not like toddlers when that was happening. Yeah. So I thought that was a good choice.
Me too. I think it solidifies her like 2000s Y2K. It's not even Y2K. It's more of like, what's it called? Like Fugitive Arrow or something like that.
With the air she's trying to.
Yeah, where it's like, you see it on TikTok all over the place, but also we lived it.
Yes.
Right? If you were watching like Spy Kids or some shit.
Yep.
Where it was.
Shot Spy Kids.
Yeah. Where everything was like clear, or like there's bubbles everywhere, or everything was like white and then there's like green, or there's like magenta, or there's that weird blue color that was kind of like an ocean blue. I feel like she is encapsulating that in her music, like aesthetically, right? We've always been talking about, it's such a 90s or 2000s vibe, but now she's starting to show that visually in her music. I know I'm talking about a music video in the album review, but it's overall part of the aesthetic overall of all her music.
It's the whole thing. Yeah. And that's one part where I think I give that credit to her label more than her, because she wasn't there for that. You know, and I think how well-rounded that whole thing is, where like the music and the visuals and the sound is like, she wasn't there for that. You know, it's like
she was there partly.
She wasn't there for that.
I think she's born in what? She's born in like 2000?
2001.
Yeah, so she was there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she has great memories when she was 6 years old. I'm sure she remembers all of that. But either way, I'm a fan of it. Whether it's her or her label, I'm a fan of it either way. In terms of production, Cash Cobain is on this track with Central C. You know, he's definitely known more for his hip hop and R&B stuff. He's on Drake's last album. He did Central C's Daily Duppy. He's on Swish with Flea, and he's had some co-production on the last project as well on Nice to Meet You. But that was a good sign for me, because Cash Cobain, even though he's not totally hip hop or totally R&B, you know, he has songs with Lucky, Lil Yachty. He's more known in the hip hop space, and for her to collaborate with a hip hop producer and this song sound like a PinkPantheress song, I like that a lot, because once I heard it's not from Cash, it's from YouTube or whatever he says at the beginning, you know, your eyebrows go up a little bit like, what's gonna be next? What's this gonna be? So it still stood in that lane of, okay, it's still PinkPantheress, and that's what you want to see, is like an artist use multiple producers, but their sound still sound like their sound, and that's something that we don't we don't always see that, but for her to do that, because her sound, I think, it's not unique in in the history of music, but in terms of right now, it's pretty unique.
Dude's crazy on Bury Me.
Yep, Bury Me is my favorite. I have that on here too.
That's a Bnyx producer, because you could tell by the at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But that producer tag meshes perfectly with her music. It sounds, because he uses it throughout the song, that production tag.
Yeah,
it just sounds like it's her. It almost sounds like it's her, right? So I feel like there's even that combination, which Bnyx, just for people who I don't know, that are not really fully like seeing what he's doing, is like he's a producer for like Yeat and Drake. Right, yep. He produced a track on Drake's latest album, right?
Yeah, he has a few on Drake's latest album. He did Search and Rescue as well.
Yeah,
he did Yeat's Talk. He did K-pop by Travis Scott. So that's kind of the group he's in.
Yeah, so for me, with those two songs in particular, showed, first of all, the strength of PinkPantheress to me, to be like, Koyo, you've been doing hip hop, but we're doing my shit right now.
Yeah.
And then it also shows that it shows the skill of those guys, because they can actually make a song that is pretty different. Search and Rescue, it does not sound like anything PinkPantheress makes.
Bury has that element that you mentioned about how electronic music is like adjacent to drill. That rumble in the bass in the chorus, very drill, very, very drill. And I think this kind of shows how open she is as an artist, because like you mentioned earlier, you're thinking of electronic as kind of away from hip hop, which not everyone thinks, and I'm happy that she doesn't think that way as well, because I feel like people in that arena definitely have their like blinders on, in a sense of like, we're doing electronic music, we're doing garage, we're doing house, get away from us, and the fact that she's open to like bring in producers from other genres while keeping her sound, but adding those elements from other genres. Yeah, that's kind of the tell of an artist like really elevating and growing. The intro, Another Life with Rema, that was like I have my eyebrows up, because I was a little worried last week. I told you about how the sound was going to be and what's going to happen. I think I was halfway right. We'll get to that.
Did you say that on the pod or in our post production?
I think that might have been post pod.
Right.
I think I mean the end of sound bites.
Okay, so tell us. So let's refresh a little bit on how you felt about when leading up to this album.
Yes, this is leading up. Okay, nobody cancel me. It's leading up. But I was worried about the sound of her, because she had quote unquote gone pop in between. And so I was like, will the sound still be the same? Will she try and change her sound to fit more of what the mainstream is? And that was where I was worried. I was like, an artist who has this big, ascension, in between albums. Yeah, that's very different from having an album blow up. When you have an album blow up, your single blows up, the album sells well. That's its own thing. But once you grow, in between projects, that's the time when you're like, okay, let me switch some things up. So I was a little worried. I like this album a lot, so I think she put some of my worries to bed. Yeah. But there are times on here where it's like, this definitely would not have been on the last project.
Okay. And, talk to me.
Another Life isn't necessarily one of those, but I think I want to highlight the Rema feature, because he don't sound like himself. Anyone who listens to him, he don't sound like he sounds kind of like a little Uzi, a little bit.
Yes, a little Uzi, a little Destroy Lonely.
Yeah, that was the sound. And that really put my antennas up, because I was like, what did you guys drug him with to make him sound like this? Did he do this on his own? Was this consensual for him to sound like this? And then two, for us to be her intro and have that, like, again, Destroy Lonely Lil Uzi sound, I was like, okay, I wonder where you're headed with this. But we talked about the pop punk earlier, both two artists who have that pop punk influence. I think, with PinkPantheress, there's more of a mixture of cultures than sounds.
Yes, I agree.
And I think like the cultures is mixing like fully mixed, and the sounds you get a little sprinkle. Yeah, and I think that's part of it, is like that. That, what do you call that style of rapping at the beginning?
I don't even know. It's like more like melodic, but it's not even really melodic. It's almost like digitized. I don't know.
It's like a punk version of hip hop in a sense.
Yes. Rage. It's rage music.
Right. So it's like, that's where you see that collide, because her music has some of those elements where it's like, of course, she would be technically a part of that culture. So my eyebrows were up with that one, even though I did like it, but I was kind of like, when I saw Rima, this is not what
I know, me neither.
This is not what I expected. And then there's two that I feel like are
one more thing on Another Life. First of all, I was just like you. I was a little bit worried at the beginning, but not leading up. Leading up, I was okay.
Yeah, you were calming me down.
I was trying to calm you down. I'm like, don't worry, it's gonna be sick. Trust me, everything's gonna be okay. But when I heard Another Life and the organ is playing at the beginning, I was like, oh no. I had an oh no moment because I'm like, don't tell me she did some crazy shit. Hey, she could probably do something insane and be like, I'm gonna release an orchestral classical album and I'm just gonna sing on everything and it might work, possibly. But we're very early in the PinkPantheress artist. She's 22, 23, right? So right at the very beginning, so I was worried that something crazy was gonna happen. But ultimately, it was just the intro. But what this song showed to me, this song in combination with the Bury Me with Bnyx showed me is that I think a Yeat collab it makes sense for her. It does. I do think it does. I think that vocalization from Rima, right? And then Bnyx also making a song for her. I'm like, so I could see it. It's visible to me.
That was only one of my questions, so I'm happy you just answered it anyways. Yeah. But I feel like I agree with you, first of all. I think that's a clear something they could do there. Yeah. But to me, I think, why has that not happened yet?
I don't know.
I think there's no way that they don't know each other. Bnyx is, the clear middleman right there. So to me, it's like there has to be some reason why this hasn't already happened on this project. So I still think it's a great idea, but maybe it's not going to happen for reasons we'll never know.
Well, I think their aesthetic styles are like opposites. When you listen to Yeat's music, it's like, almost like wavy down here, and he does like a lot of grumbling like this, and rapping like this, right? And her singing is very high, and also his music is slower paced versus fast. So I think it's just like
so maybe he said no,
maybe
because I can't think that they made this whole project without even attempting to do some kind of collaboration. I think this maybe would have been something that didn't make the project. It didn't fit the aesthetic. It wasn't dark enough for what Yeat is accustomed to. So that's my guess, is that they tried something and it maybe didn't fit for this project. Maybe they both got to grow their sounds to somewhere meet in the middle. And where they're both now doesn't really fit. Yeah,
but I would say, just to, to even build on your point, that this is what, this meeting between electronic music and hip hop is like, we're talking about Yeat, right? Bnyx is collaborating with hip hop artists now, so, and then, Central C, but drill, like I said, drill is kind of like partially electronic music. So
drill is definitely electronic. Yeah,
so you can kind of see that like combo, like I don't know if you've seen it mesh, but you're seeing it like, they grace each other, right?
I think, to me, I think it's already there.
Even Uzi, oh my god, Uzi's basically electronic.
No, to me, it's all, if you look at even Calvin Harris or Diplo, a lot of their last projects, it's rappers all over that shit.
Yeah,
so I feel like that mix is already there, but I just don't feel like it's on the hip hop side. It's more hip hop artists going into that world and not the other way around. We're definitely way past the years of that EDM era in hip hop.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
2010s.
Yeah,
starships were meant to fly.
No, or the I can't stop that one. Yeah, so we're definitely past that era, but everything cycles.
That was a good time though. I enjoyed that time.
No, I was a huge Chitty Bang fan, so I was all over that. But
I was like a Swedish House Mafia, Alesso. I was actually in
Alesso,
it. I was in it back then.
Listen, we're super sidetracked, but one last thing is, those were the first podcasts. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
EDM were the first podcasters. If you know what I'm talking about, we'll get to that a little later, but those are
back to this.
Those first podcasters. True Romance and Feel Complete were two songs where I was like, this is a different kind of PinkPantheress. True Romance, that like first bit, that's her BPM. That's her speed usually. But those drums, a little different than how she usually would do them.
More breakbeat, hip hop influence.
Very much so. And then later on in the song, it kind of goes back to what we're used to from her. But I thought it was interesting as like, you know, basically right away, it's like, we're changing it up. You're gonna see right away things are not how they used to be.
Yeah.
But I like how they did this. I think that this version of changing it up, that breakbeat at the beginning, we've all heard breakbeats before. We're celebrating 50 years of hip hop, but that was more closer to her style than to how someone else might use a breakbeat.
Right.
And so I like that they said it's like, we're going away from your style, but we're not going too far. The door is still open. We ain't closed the door yet. So, you know, I like that. And then Feel Complete.
Which song were you talking about?
I'm talking about True Romance.
Oh, okay. I was talking about Feel Complete.
I'm saying both of them. Sorry. True Romance doesn't start with a breakbeat, but True Romance is like the actual real drums.
Yeah.
They both have like real drums in them, which is like not what she's usually doing. But Feel Complete is the breakbeat one. True Romance is the one where it's just more the real drums. But both of those songs, I was like, okay, this is like her evolution, you know? And it made me feel more comfortable with what it was because, again, she didn't lose what she was. I think a lot of times, we talked about Brent Faiyaz after the podcast last time, is like, that element is still there of like why people like them, why they're a popular artist, what makes them distinct. But it's kind of like watered down, sanded off sort of thing. I don't think they did that much with her. I feel like, you know, there are stuff that people can recognize in pop music with her production, but I think that, you know, take away her voice, you could hear this and be like, oh, this is probably PinkPantheress. And I think that having that quality is extremely rare when artists at this stage of their career, evolving, going to a more popish sound, to still keep those elements that are her. I'm really impressed by that.
Yeah, and I think that she's able, I feel like she's actually able to kind of, I do see the pop punk thing. Now that you're talking about with True Romance especially.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I guess. I like the camera intro, right? And then the songwriting on that song is really good. Let me talk about that later. So I can kind of see the pop punk thing. Maybe it's just because I think those were only like 2 of the songs out of the 14. 34 minutes album, by the way. So even it's her debut album, 13 songs, and she's like, yeah, still 30 minutes. I can't do this long shit.
Yeah. And Boys a Liar Part 2 is on here, so technically 12 songs.
Yeah, so technically 12. So it's actually probably closer to just 30 minutes flat. So, but yeah, I think that the pop punk thing exists, but I think that it's like a sidetrack. I feel like it's a little bit of like a step to the side, because you can even be like Capable of Love is a little bit more rock influence, but really we're just talking about is the guitar, right? Like I think Capable of Love, it's more guitar led, where I feel like some of her songs are like harp led, or they're not really piano, more like synth led or something like that, or the drums, like you know, the drums lead the song in some of the tracks. So yeah, she's able to duck and dodge into a bunch of different genres. But one song that I want to talk about right now, okay, which I think is my favorite song because it's the one I press repeat on pretty often.
I'm interested what this is.
Feelings. Okay.
Wow.
Feelings is like, I feel like it's a Janet Jackson track that she's trying to do.
I'm gonna stop you before you continue. I like that you're going here.
Yeah.
But Feelings is a song with the least amount of streams of the entire project. So I want you to know what kind of island you're on before you even ISO. Okay. Okay. No one on the back line.
You know what? I'm gonna do it myself. There's a hill I'm gonna die on. That, first of all, I'm gonna say that song is hard, and I don't think I would ever say that about a PinkPantheress song.
Yeah.
Where I'm listening to the intro, and then it gets to that, and I legitimately stank face. I was like, and I never thought personally. I would ever do that for
stank face for a PinkPantheress song.
Yeah, never. PinkPantheress music is so floaty and it's free and
frolicking.
Yeah, exactly.
Frolicking with drums.
Exactly. So when you hear that, like that dig, right? Like I think it's like a minute in, 40 seconds in, something like that. I'm like, shit, man, this song is going crazy, and also that vocal line. This is how much I was really into the song. Like, oh yeah, I'm feeling like Janet Jackson, like Velvet Rope, right? Janet Jackson. But then I'm like, on that hook, the I was like, oh my God, little Weekend on this right now. That vocal line is a little Weekendish. Okay. A little Weekend. So she's mixing a lot of things that I really like, and I remember that we were talking about on the last album, that we not PinkPantheress, Midget Jordan, the Midget Jordan review, where I said if I could tell that like it's influenced by somebody like really obviously, like that kind of hurts it for me. I think that for this song, I do feel like wow, Janet Jackson big time right here. But then I'm like also The Weeknd is kind of like, you know, that vocal line is like so influenced by The Weeknd, like After Hours. I even looked at him, like I was trying to figure out which song is After Hours.
Yeah.
That is such a pretty crazy combo.
But yeah, you like this one.
Yeah. So but I think it's the combination of Janet Jackson and The Weeknd, but existing in one body is kind of like an interesting concept to me. Versus when it was the Midget Jordan track where I'm like, this is straight up Sade, and this person is just doing a Sade, like a Sade song. So I think that's the thing for me is like that combo that, you know, it's a very, very unique combo. You know, Janet Jackson, I mean, it's unique in the sense of like picturing Janet Jackson working with The Weeknd would be kind of weird. Yeah. But since The Weeknd obviously influenced by Michael Jackson, and Janet Jackson, making songs all the time, so it kind of makes sense, right? So so ultimately, the song makes sense, and that's why I probably think the song's hard as hell. And again, I'm like, what am I doing thinking a PinkPantheress song is hard? But I think it's awesome. I love that track, bro.
Capable of Love first like leaked online 2 years ago in 2021. So this is like quote unquote from the older era, if that even exists with PinkPantheress. Yeah. But this was a song that I actually highlighted for like a negative. Really? Because this is when I was like, yeah, her vocals, it's about to be soon before we start.
Capable of, okay, this is not about feelings anymore. We're talking about capable of love. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to be sure because I'm like, I'm ready to fight for feelings, bro.
Feelings? The beat was so hard that I kind of let it go.
Yeah, you know? It's kind of like it's like it's not really R&B. Well, it's kind of R&B.
No, it is. Yeah, it's kind of more an industrial sound. Janet Jackson is accurate. Like it is that era of Janet Jackson, like a modernized version of the Rhythm Nation era. Yeah, like that's what I would say.
Exactly. It's R&B, but there's an industrial element to it. You're right. Yeah. So it was awesome. But like, capable of love.
Again, feelings was where like I noticed it, but that beat was so hard that I was like, I don't need her to like oversing this. You know, like it's almost as like the under singing works here, and this makes this track kind of fit. Yeah. Capable of Love right afterwards was I was like, we're getting to a point now where I think people don't really care about her vocals, but I'm gonna mention it and be like, vocally she can't hang. Like, vocally I would say is where she like really like suffers, and it's fine for the sound she's going for, the frolicking, the vibe, but it is like it's whisper singing adjacent, you know. And I'll go back to that same thing I always say is like, if you put this artist in American Idol, how far do they get?
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And it's like PinkPantheress is definitely not getting far. You know, like that's just what it is. So it's like it fits the energy, the vibe we're going for, and like the whole thing. But again, I think if she's not in R&B. I think she's not an R&B artist. She's more a pop artist than anything, a dance artist. But you know, whoever you say her contemporaries are, I'm sure she's at the bottom end of like singing capabilities.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when you put it that way, I do agree. I feel like she is not the strongest singer. But her music doesn't require her to be. Luckily.
Well, that's like she stays in her pocket, but I think that's like it all goes together. She's on making the beats. She's like, she's not gonna make music for herself that she can't.
Yeah, that she can't sing.
You
on.
know, it's like so. It's like that is true, but to me that's arbitrary because that's what it is. You know, there hasn't been any sign of a hope to branch outside of that. We haven't seen her mention on an interview. I haven't seen it in actual music of like one day she wants to sing. You know, you see certain artists where it's like, okay, I see he wants to sing one day. I don't see that in her music. Yeah. But I think that is like a right now thing. I think as she gets older, music evolves, I think that's going to change.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I think that I agree. I think that she probably in the future will become a better singer, but I think that just naturally, because you know you become better at things that you do for a long period of time. But I think that also her music, there's so much space to like to do stuff in like the production.
Yeah.
That I feel like the voice can like stay the same and like you can just
The production can do the work.
Yeah, you can kind of change the production around her and it still maintains its interest and relevance like it currently is. This is her third project, right? Because she had the mixtape and then she had like the EP very recently, and then now this album, right? So doing 3 projects of the voice sounding the same, but we're always excited about new PinkPantheress coming out, and she always has some new shit happening. So I think that the vocals don't have to change yet.
No, I don't think they have to. I think what she's doing works, but I do think like for her evolution of becoming a bigger artist, I think where she's at now, she can do great. But I think becoming that next level of artist. And I even look at someone like Miley Cyrus, who wasn't known for her vocals. Yeah, Miley Cyrus' last album that we reviewed, there are some like attempts on there to really, you know, do something vocally, which you wouldn't have seen 3 albums ago. Yeah, you know, and this is her best-selling album she's had in a very long time. So I think there is something there of that next step, those huge ballads, that kind of stadium music needs to have that bigger voice. Now I have one that goes for lyrics and production. Okay, and
I gotta hide that with feelings. Go ahead. Feel it.
Feelings is a banger. Feelings is a banger. We're not Feelings is a banger.
I'm gonna say this, guys. Stream Feelings, okay? You guys need to start listening to Feelings. You know, it's like the 3rd last song or something like that. Yeah. So it's at the end of the, which is a shame because that song slaps.
But it slaps. It slaps. The Isle. Yeah. The Isle was super giving me Boy's a Liar. Okay. Even though the Isle now, it's like that the cadence, even how she kind of gets into the chorus, very similar to Boy's a Liar. I would not be surprised if they were
made in the same session.
Same session on the same time.
Oh yeah, I totally get what you're talking about.
100%. And I thought that was interesting to just have like a song that is directly almost copying one of your other songs on your debut album. That feels kind of, you know,
yeah, I feel like Cardi B did that on Invasion of Privacy with like Bodak Yellow and another track I can't remember right now. But she did a similar thing.
Yeah, I think that's an odd choice, but you know, to each their own. But there are some lyrics in Isle that they kind of made me realize that PinkPantheress, again, this is electronic music, so no one's coming to this for the lyrics. That's
she's got lyrics though.
Well, she has some lyrics. Yeah, but I think that's not an emphasis in her music so far. Okay, and I think this is where she has a lot of growth potential. Me too, because even the PinkPantheress fans, I don't think they're hip to her lyrics. I think like this is something that you like her music, you kind of you sing along, you know what she's saying, but you're not gonna quote it. You know,
that's true.
Away from the music, so. This album and this song, The Isle, I was kind of like, okay, maybe that's where she can set herself apart. Maybe that's a place where she can be, you know, her own in this space, even if vocally she's not up to snuff. But on verse 2 of The Isle, she says, "Why can't I be romantic with you? I'm guessing it's something about the stuff we went through. Now you'll never let me leave that behind us, leave it in California. This ticket situation with you made me start booking all my tables for 2. I still refer to you as an option because you always find your way right back to me." First of all, I'm probably gonna show all the spin back songs on every project until the end of the year. This is definitely some spin back shit. Someone PinkPantheress has been dealing with. They kind of broke up. Now they came back. But I like that first line because this is something that maybe I know because you know I'm tapped in on the interwebs. Yeah. You know, all the PinkPantheress content, bring that to my algorithm. But she says, "Why can't I be romantic with you?" And that's kind of like more of her personality of like, she isn't that romantic personality. You know, that isn't her vibe.
Well, it kind of, no, I don't know if she's romantic. She's not really romantic, but she's kind of like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it happening? That type of stuff.
Exactly. And I think like, this is one of those songs that I feel like her real personality, which she's shown a lot on the internet, makes a song like this make sense, you know? And the whole idea of like, yeah, she's in this romantic situation and they're a couple, but to ask yourself, why can't I be romantic with you? Like, we could spend a lot of time. That's a very deep question, because it's the idea of like, you've met someone, you think they're super hot, they're super cool, they're what you're looking for, but it's just not, you know, and you're like, is it me? Why is this? So I like that she brought that up, even at her young age, is like, that's a thing. You know, we've all met someone who we're like, I can see that you're attractive. I like you as a person, but why am I not?
Yeah, the physical.
Where's the Jones in my bones, you know? So I like that. But to start off the verse with "Why can't I be romantic with you," and then end it with "You always find your way right back here or right back to me." That's just like such a flex in a way of like, I can't be romantic with you properly how I want to, but you can come back anyways.
Yeah,
you know?
That's a very Bread Fire-ass type of bar. She's dropping Bread Fire-ass bars, bro.
No, 100%. And I think I like this because I think this is where we're headed with PinkPantheress. Now, talking about the covers, we're not there yet, but you know, that cover compared to this cover, few differences just in her visage in these two covers. Yeah. We'll get to that when we get to that. But you know, she's kind of growing up, becoming a woman in front of our eyes, but with this fame. You know, at the age of your early 20s, you know, 23 to 26, like, especially in terms of like a romantic sense, a sexual sense, like you grow into who you are and like what you're capable of and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, to have that happen while you're becoming more popular, more famous.
Yeah, you're more visible. Everything you do is under a microscope.
It's like the dude from Shortage that left you on red is now, you know, the dude from LA. You know, things change. So I like that of her putting that in her music because you know, she's growing and becoming more popular with every single project. Yes. And that has to go on the music. So I like that she's putting that in there, even though, like I said before, people are not always checking for the lyrics, but people, maybe you should. Maybe you should, because there's stuff in there. Yeah, I think that she definitely has lyrics that are worthy of like reading. I think on Mosquito, I think this is the lead of the hook, where she's like, I just had a dream that I was dead and I only cared because I was taken from you. That's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. I need that one on a gravestone or some shit, bro. Put that on my gravestone, please. I know. My God. Talking about bars using in real life. That is a bar. That's a bar you can use in real life. Ooh. That's one of like, you know, you and your shorty are in some like, it's, you know, some tough times, rough times. Just drop that one in the morning. And you could drop it like it really happened too. Like, I know. You could really get that off. Like, yeah, I had a dream. You know, I died, and like all I was worried about was being away from you. Yeah, and then they're like, oh. Don't kill me. That would work in text really. Oh my God, that would kill in a text. No. I want to make a disclaimer here, a PSA. The album mode does not condone any toxicity. Any toxicity that you got from this show is only incidental. I'm not saying it's not toxic. It's actually extremely romantic. That's a very, very romantic line. It's romantic if it's true. Exactly. In this scenario, it's not. I would say if that happened, it is an extremely romantic thing. Well, it's an extremely romantic lyric. Yes. Right? Especially for the song. That's why I was saying, that's why you said she's not romantic. I'm like, she kind of is. She got some things to her. So I think that that's 2 lines, I think 3 lines in that song. And it's the hook. Yeah. Right? So for the emotional, you know, for something as emotional as that to exist in the hook is awesome because it hits you every time. Yeah. Right? And it's like one of the most catchy parts of the song. So I think that's great. And then, you know, it has like the whistles in the background, you know, kind of accentuating like its carefreeness. But I think that her carefree, like the weird thing about her music is she sings about like sadness or like, you know, sometimes death. Yeah. Right. Sometimes, you know, like breaking up with somebody or like being forlorn or something like that. But her music is so carefree, like audio wise. Yeah. Like the sonics of it. The sonics are so carefree. They're so blissful, and it's also fast paced. And she literally in the middle of this is a drum and bass song. Basically, she's like, yeah, I just had a dream. I was dead, and I was worried because you know, and I only cared because it meant that you weren't around, right? And that's like kind of that's a bar, man. Yeah. So I think that that's really interesting for her music. Her that contrast always exists. It's existed from the very beginning. Yeah, she's always had that. Yeah, in her music. So for her to maintain that tension though, even all the way up until now is really great. I think that she's also has like this ability to. Sorry, I'm trying to find the track. I think that she has this ability to also like pull in other
like she's been pulling in other genres, but this is even in the lyrics. Because when you said like, oh yeah, there's like a K-pop element to her music.
Yeah.
I've been saying for the whole year, New Jeans, PinkPantheress, when?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like if you just listen, even if you listen to this album, now you listen to this album and then you go listen to the previous New Jeans EP, I mean, who do I have to call?
It's obvious.
Yeah,
it's
who do
obvious.
I call? Like, who do I have to send mail to? Like, it's so obvious to me. But on Another Life, right? She has this one lyric that's an interpolation, right? Where she's like, this is in the hook, I believe, or not in the hook. I think it's in one of the verses where she's like, you melt up my body and all my heart, and that's like that's a FX, right? Interpolation from a K-pop, K-pop group. So she sees K-pop, like she's
aware.
She's aware. She's like it's visible to her. She's a young, she's like a young 20-something. Also, black girls.
Yeah,
I know black girls that are into K-pop, right? So it's not like this is out of nowhere, right? Like this is something that is like a real conversation that's happening musically, right? So for her to actually also make the distinction, grab onto it and like include it in her music, just shows that like I feel that PinkPantheress is like extremely aware of genre, of music, who can fit into what she does, because for her to include K-pop, for her to include Central C, to include Rema, to include like all these like different influences, all this type of stuff, and it still sounds PinkPantheress. For it not to escape her sphere of influence,
it's impressive, man.
Yeah, it's really impressive. So I just wanted to point that out, like that that part of like the K-pop influence is still, even in the lyrics, it's there.
I think that's something we mentioned in the beginning in terms of the culture, like making its way into the music. Like that's all these things are. These are like the cultures that it seems like she's a part of.
Yeah.
You know? And like I would honestly guess that PinkPantheress goes outside more than her fans.
Me too.
You know, like
I agree. I think so too.
So I think that's like so many of these examples of like the cultures that she's a part of, making their way into the music. Now, do you have anything else for lyrics? Because I want to talk about this cover.
Okay, I have one more thing. It's in True Romance. It's in True Romance where this entire song, like one thing that she hasn't really done up until this point is like a storytelling song. Yes. Right? And I feel like True Romance is one of the, I want to say, I don't know if it's the first, but it's one of the first times where it feels like she's really trying to do a story, a scenario, right? And in True Romance, it's all about her embodying a person who is like a concert goer or like a fan of somebody else. Yes. And just like say what you want. This is True Romance. I know you're older, but I really know I'm sure. Held my tickets since they landed at my door. I've been a fan of you since 2004. I think she was born in 2001.
Yeah, I don't know how that's possible, but
I think that's one of those ones where she kind of is able to like make it so 20 years ago I've been a fan of you for 20 years, right? And then she does all this stuff in the pre-chorus is like, you got me so much I took my loving over there. I got a tattoo just to show you how much I care, but there's so many girls around you that I'm scared, right? And then she goes to the portion where in verse 2 where it's like, I'm in the crowd, can you see my hand? Bring me on tour, help me understand. I told you once before, this is True Romance, and now I can't be your friend. This is True Romance. So there's this like embodying of the parasocial relationship of being like a fan, like, I would say a delusional one.
A stan.
Right. A stan, right? Yeah. Where she's like, I'm in the crowd, can you see my hand? When like most people, there's like 1,000 of you. It's impossible to decipher. Or thousands, tens of thousands, 30,000, depending on how big of an artist you are. So it's kind of impossible to decipher. But for her to say like, this is True Romance, you can't be friends, I'm like, bro, what are you talking about?
I thought this was cute. I thought this was cute.
No, I think it's good. I was just like, I think she's selling the delusion. She's selling it. Right? Like, I believe it. I believe that she...
You know what the girlies say? Yeah. Dululu is a salulu. So, that's all she's doing.
I didn't know you were on that side of TikTok.
Why wouldn't I be? Why wouldn't I be?
Oh, my God. So, yeah, I
You did not see that one coming either, did you?
I didn't know you were on the Dululu side of TikTok, bro. I didn't realize that was in your wheelhouse. I've seen the phrase. Yeah, so I think that she's selling it. It sounds great. It was a little bit weird to hear because she's currently now famous, and now I feel like she is the person on stage versus the person in the crowd. But
here I was gonna say, this is almost like a derivative of Stan, the actual original song, because she's also famous. But I think this is like, I think this could be still happening now. PinkPantheress is a big artist for sure, but there are plenty of artists bigger than PinkPantheress for PinkPantheress to be a fan of, you know?
Do you think she could go to a show just like on her ones?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. PinkPantheress is not like, I can't go outside yet.
Yeah.
She can go outside.
Yeah, I think, she can still go outside. I feel like she doesn't have like a very distinct aesthetic. Like if you saw if you saw Brent Faiyaz walk outside, you'd be like,
you know who that is?
Massive dude with this massive afros just walking around. PinkPantheress, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
And as well, I think it's like the casual fans don't know her visage yet, which is kind of what I want to talk about. The cover is like that. I always mention the casual fan because I think part of our job with this podcast is to kind of illustrate what's going on, not just on our timeline, not just in our algorithm. And she's not casual yet, you know. I think like if you know PinkPantheress, we'll be like, that's her right there. But if we're walking with someone who's not a PinkPantheress fan, they're like, what's this girl wearing on her feet? You know, that's going to be what they're saying more than that's PinkPantheress.
Right.
So I feel like this is part of her changing that. Now, I like this cover a lot. Heaven No. I think it's interesting because it kind of ties in with her previous cover in a sense. And you know, we haven't had that many covers that are like a whole, are a whole like theme that, you know, go through the cover. So something for, this is like an Easter egg for our fans to look into is like, what's the next cover going to be? But I like it a lot. I think the white with the dove, it's giving heaven.
Yeah.
It's giving angel, you know? So I like this a lot. And two, I think that this is just a more grown-up cover. Like she's in this white dress, nails and all. This is more like a sexy cover than, you know, on the last one where it's like, she's basically in all black. It's very, very dark. And I mentioned like, you know, her kind of growing up in front of our eyes, so to speak. Like, I think this is a huge part of that. You know, it's like, we have this joke we say about people's industry age. You know, it's like you have your age and your industry age. You know, it's like in the industry, people always think I'm like 24. I'm not. But in the industry, I was a different age. She's getting her version of that because with the last project, it's like she's given high school. You know, she's done high school. But that's the whole thing is like, hey, this is for the high schoolers. She's now out of high school. She's at the age where she'd be out of university as well.
Yeah, she dropped out of university.
You know, so it's like, this is more giving adult, you know. Her peers now are 22, 23, 24, 25. And especially with her being famous, we could do the math on that. She's meeting people who are our age and above.
Yeah.
You know, so I think this is like a cover that kind of represents that. I you know, hearken it to the Olivia Rodrigo with her cover before and her new cover.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great connection.
You know, and it's like, that's just something like, I don't want to say it's obvious you see it coming, but it's a natural progression just from the lifestyle and the cover kind of matching. Yeah,
I didn't even think of that, but I totally, man, we should have brought the Olivia Rodrigo thing.
That'd have been a good one, yeah.
But yeah, that's a great connection. I do think that I like the cover a lot. I do like whatever the texture mapping that they did on like the staircase and stuff like that. It looks good. It looks like fuzzy almost.
It's almost like you think the picture is low definition, but then you look at her and it's not. Yeah,
it's definitely in HD, like 4K. But yeah, I don't know. It has a good.
This is a Photoshop job. I'm thinking like, yeah, this is definitely an empty studio. She took this picture on this couch.
Yeah, and then they took the picture on the couch and then they threw in the background.
Yeah,
but it looks fantastic though. It also, if you look at the previous album, right, or the previous mixtape.
Yeah, there you go.
She's outside of a house.
Yes.
Right? Now she's inside of the house. Right? Lying on the couch inside the house. Yeah. Right? So there's even that. So there is like even the connection between the heaven and hell thing, because the previous project, let's say, is called To Hell With It, right? And now this is Heaven Knows. So there is that like almost like duality that exists, and we're in the white and the black. Yeah, I think it looks fantastic. I think that I'm happy her face is on it. right? Because this is going to be her most popular project to date because Boys a Liar is on it.
Yeah.
Right? So Boys a Liar Part 2.
Yes.
Which is Boys a Liar Part 2 joining the long-standing tradition in, I want to say, black music of Part 2, the Part 2 being better than the first part, and then nobody's going to remember the first part.
Yeah.
Like Dead Presidents 2. What does the first one sound like? Who knows what the first one sounds like?
A lot of people do, but Dead Presidents 2 is definitely the popular one for sure.
So, yeah, so she's even got that going on. So there's even a traditional aspect to her music as well, even though that it's new. I would say her music is new for now, but also still harkens back to the past. And I think even this cover, you know, like the white dress and the leaning on the couch, that's like a very old school type of type of pose, you know.
100%. So even the hairstyle, like if you look at the hairstyle change from this project to the last one,
she even has like the straight, man, bro. She knows what she's doing.
She's growing up.
Yeah, she's doing good shit now.
And the other thing I think is interesting is that there's this like in between era with artists who are young. I told you Billie Eilish went through it. So Olivia Rodrigo, PinkPantheress. She's older than them, but she's going through it as well. Where it's like there's a time when it kind of pays to look younger and be more of like, okay, look at you maybe in high school, you know, for the teens, for the kids. That space doesn't last very long, and that transition from okay, we're feeding you to the kids, to the teenagers, to she's an adult now, and this is for someone who's not on TikTok. This is like, okay, will someone who's not on TikTok buy your album, listen to your music?
Right.
Because right now, if you're not on TikTok, the chance of you knowing who PinkPantheress is and being hip, very low. Very, very low. I know TikTok has a bunch of users, everyone's a lot of views, but we have to remember there are many people, millions of people, who do not use TikTok at all. And I think this is like them changing her visit, changing her visuals to be like, okay, let's try and get the people who are not on TikTok now. You've done well over there. Still do well, but we want to get the casual fan. What do you think about this doing for her career? Like, where do you think this takes her? You're obviously a huge super fan. We get it. She's a great thing to slice bread. Greatest artist since Madonna. No one can touch her. Like, we know all of that.
I think for PinkPantheress, this is great for. I think this is great for her. I think that collabs are good. I think that she's able to, like I mentioned when we were talking about the production and the lyrics, she pulls other genres towards her. She doesn't go to other genres. She pulls them to her, right? She pulls the producers to her, pulls different artists to her. She doesn't go. What was the last time she did a feature? She doesn't really do features like that.
No,
I think she did a feature.
Destroy Lonely was the one.
Yeah, right. So she pulls shit to her, right? And I think that. But she's in that hallowed space of being nobody else does what she does, but what she does is really good and immensely popular.
Yeah.
Right? She's in that space where we talk about like Brand Fayez, Tyler the Creator, right? That's where she is right now, where nobody else does the shit like me, but everybody loves the shit that I do. Everybody thinks that it's really good. Yeah. And also it's becoming more popular on its own merit. Right? Like people like Tyler and Brent and I would consider PinkPantheress in that sphere now. She does her shit and it gets popping because she's popping. Yeah. Right? And she just so happened, Boys the Liars, like bring in Ice Spice because I think Ice Spice is cool. Ice Spice came to me. I don't know Ice Spice. Ice Spice came to my track. Yes. Right? Yes. And then it popped off, right? So I think that it's great for her overall because I still think it's great music. And she is still pulling in tons of stuff and she's doing good shit. She's, I would say, more mature look now. And I think that if your random person saw this on like a stand, like the record on record stand, like, oh, what's going on over here? Pick it up, right? So I think this is great for her. What do you think?
I think this is huge for her. Like, I don't know if there's gonna be bigger songs on this than her last project, like Boys a Liar Part 2. Yeah. Huge.
Massive single, bro.
Pain. Yeah. Break It Off. I Must Apologize. So I don't know if there's any of those on this project. I think maybe the Central C song, Nice to Meet You. But I do think this helps her because, I don't know how much she's going to be a huge artist over here, in America, Canada. But I think in the UK, she could you know, just be the #1, you know, female artist in the UK. And I think that's where she's headed. So I feel like this is like helping her in that sense. And then, you know, the features, the Central C feature, I think is going to be huge for her. Central C hasn't put out music in a long time. You know, people are waiting for his project. I think that's going to be a feature that's going to put her on people's radar that she wasn't on before. I know it's hard to believe. We get it. She's the biggest artist ever. But I think that she's going to be on a lot of people's radar that she wasn't on before. And that's the whole point of new music. Yeah. And so I think that ultimately for her career, this helps her. My only issue I do want to bring up, not with her specifically, but with the sound, I'm counting down the days, the months, the seconds until she gets some copycats. I'm counting down the seconds, man. I know how this industry works. They're gonna find someone else light skinned who lives in small town America, give them a beat machine, and be like, "Yo, shoot this in your crib. Yeah, you did it on your own." You know, so I'm waiting for those kind of copycats of like them trying to recreate. I don't think they can. I think like
it's hard to do that.
I think this is really her, and like you can't just recreate this. But I do see that coming of like, let's try and recreate, you know, and whether it's a whole artist, they try and like make another PinkPantheress, or we go back to that EDM era we talked about, and you know when Katy Perry's new albums comes out, she got some garage on it, you know, like
Nicki Minaj has an EDM track,
you know, Taylor Swift has some, you know,
had everybody. Drake, literally everyone.
Everyone, yeah. So that's what I'm interested to see is like, when is that going to happen? Because I think I'm saying when, because I really think it's going to happen, that she'll be the go-to for that. It won't be like they'll do it on their own. Because with the EDM, yeah, you could have Skrillex, but you didn't need him. Yeah. You know? I think with this,
Justin Bieber even was in that.
Yep.
Go ahead, sorry.
But I think with her, I think with this, you need her. Yeah. I think she brings authenticity to the sound. And I think even though she's not the greatest singer, her voice on the sound is a really good marriage. Yeah. So I think ultimately this is good for her career. I'm excited to see what she does next. You know, we will hopefully be coming to you in a few months with some tour news. Yeah. And telling you how the show was. Yes. But I'm excited for this. Before we get to the score, is this a no skip? Absolutely. Are you copping the vinyl?
Absolutely. Wow. Absolutely.
Wow. Back to back no skips.
Which is a rarity, guys. I don't even know. I don't think anybody else has that, to be quite honest.
Obviously you're biased.
Maybe the weekend. No, maybe not even. I don't even think the week. Yeah.
We've only done one weekend album. Right? Yeah. I think you did like a personal review for one of them.
Wait, what?
No, like when you used to do written reviews.
Oh, yeah. I wrote the review.
This guy said, what?
No, I remember I did a written review for After Hours, which I rated highly, but lambasted in the actual writing, which was a weird one for me. But I think, no skips. I think that, I'm going to leave what my thoughts are, but I think it's a no skips, basically.
I think it's a no skips too. I think this should be a vinyl cop. Yeah. I think like the production, we had great things to say about the production. But I think this is a vinyl you should cop. Like I don't say that often, but if you are a vinyl collector, you should get this vinyl. The cover, I think, is worth it. I think the music is worth it. I think what this album will mean historically, you're gonna want this one in your collection for sure. Yeah. So I think this is one that you should cop. I'm gonna let you go first. Yeah. You got home court advantage. This is a NBA in-season tournament night. Let's see you ISO.
I think that this is 8.5 out of 10 again. Okay, I think that the production is fantastic. I do think that the punk or the more rock based stuff is kind of like the weaker tracks, right? But I didn't say it doesn't work. Yes. I just said it's weaker. And also, you know, there's a song like Feelings. She doesn't have a song like Feelings at all. That's a one-off song, right? So she kind of has a couple of tracks that are outside of the like cohesion of everything that's happening. I do think that the Central C feature was good. Rema's feature was good. Was it Kalela or Kalila? Kalela. It was all right. It was okay. Like, honestly, if it was there or wasn't there, didn't matter. But the Ice Spice feature, that shit is bracking. You know what I mean? That shit is going crazy. So the features are good. The vocals are solid, but you're right that the vocals, we're getting to a point of like, oh, wait, can she sing more than this? So there's that. I think that the production's fantastic. I think I don't know. There's a lot of great things happening. Very, 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 very few drawbacks. But there are slight drawbacks. And I think that, yeah, it's an 8.5. I think the songwriting is pretty good too, which is a kind of a novelty for an electronic artist, to be honest.
Yes.
An electronic artist to have like strong or important lyrics is not common at all.
Not at all.
Not at all, right? So yeah, I think it's really good. 8.5, might even be a 9 out of 10. It's a must cop.
That top 10 list is getting crowded real fast.
It is. But you know what? It's a UK artist because Sampha is also from the UK.
Yeah. No, right. This is, again, example 1,000,005 of UK artists doing it better than everybody else.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. For me, I love that we're in this spot again. But for me, PinkPantheress, heaven knows, I'm giving it a 7.5. We're actually at our same scores as last year. I feel like this is a really, really good album. I have a few questions about it, but this album is really good. The production stands out as a high point, which is kind of the point of her music. So that gets a lot of points for me. And then, you know, what she does lyrically, she's not lyrical, miracle, spiritual. I would say, you know, the past two artists we've reviewed, Sampha, Brent, even Majid, are almost like a little bit above her.
Really?
Yeah, but I would say that she is definitely developed immensely lyrically since her last project. That's been the most growth. So for me, I love that for her. This is a 7.5. This one could be an 8, but I am just being really anal about my high scores this year. And I think that's because once we do our wrap up, I'm going to revise all my scores.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be okay, now I listened to this album for 8 months in a row. It's not a 6, it's an 8. Now I listened to it for 4 months in a row. It's not a 7, it's a 5.
Right.
So right now it's a 7.5. This is a really good project, no skips. And there are some songs in here that you can just show to someone, which I think is, especially in this climate, that's a huge, huge deal.
Yes.
Playlistable, that's my I guess my one gripe I would say, because this sound is not in every playlist. You know, I think that this is for a certain type of music listener. You know, I think if you like music, this is good. It's good music. Listen to it. But I do think this is for a certain type of music listener, because there's probably 7, 8 songs on here that, like, put them in someone's playlist, it's gonna stand out right away. Yeah. You know? So to me, that's a good thing. But I know some people are scared musically, so it may not be great for them. But PinkPantheress, heaven knows, debut album, 7.5.
I'm gonna do an 8.75, I guess. I don't know, because I feel 8.59, like, it's right there for me.
Well, I was gonna say, convince me that it's an 8 and not a 7.5, because we can get this high score of music if it can get to an 8. Convince me that it's an 8 and not 7.5, because I'm basically right there. Yeah. But if I'm like, you know, on the edge, I always will be reserved and just give it a little bit lower. Okay.
I've gone, you know, to be honest, I've gone the other way, where I'm like, if I really think it's really good, I'm gonna let it fly, because I feel like personally, both of us are extremely critical of music. Yes. Right? Yes. Especially by the average fan or the average person. The way we look at it, or the way we look at music,
sometimes it's unfair.
I don't want to say it's unfair. I don't know. That's not true.
Sometimes.
I don't think there's anybody I'm unfair to. I feel like
not as a whole, but certain things. Because certain things we just like because we like, or don't like because we don't like. Exactly. Yeah. It's like the sounding like someone else thing. Yes. Last week it was a problem. Yeah. But this week it's not.
And I was trying to decipher that, right? But yeah. So I feel like if it's really good, you think it's really good just because of how intensely that we're actually like listening to it, reading the text versus your average person. That to me says, I'm like, if I really like it, then it's good. It is. Because there's a lot of music that people love, and I'm like, this shit is trash. Right? So if it's really good, I think it's good. Then I'm like, 8.5, 9, it is. Right?
You know, I'm gonna make this an 8. I think this album is really, really gonna age well. Yes. And I think it's even gonna...
It's ageless almost, I think.
And I think it's gonna age well with me personally as well. I think, like, when I put this on, you know, 3 months from now on a plane, I'm gonna be like, oh, yeah, this sounds
I think
good.
Her music is kind of ageless. I don't feel like it ever
100%
gets old in any way.
And you know why I thought of it? My like go-to flight album. I know no one asked me this, but I'm gonna tell you guys anyways. my go-to flight album is Craig David's first album.
Okay.
And I don't know why I say on flights all the time, but this is giving me that energy of like, it's calm enough where it could still feel light. You don't feel like the world is ending, but there's enough pace where I'm not gonna fall all the way asleep.
Okay. So
this is an 8 for me. I think what we could do at some point is because I do think there are some albums that aren't as good on a serious listen. You know, on a more intentional listen, some albums suffer because of that.
Yes.
And so maybe that's like, you know, a subsection we do one day of like, let's just not read the lyrics at all. 2 listens.
I think PinkPantheress' music benefits from that, actually.
From the intentional listen?
No, from the unintentional listen. You can just play it.
No, she's one of the few artists I think that benefits both ways. Yeah. But a lot of artists, it's like
one or the other.
One or the other. Yeah. So, you know, I think that's something we can incorporate into this at some point.
I'm happy, bro. You know why? Part of the reason why I really like PinkPantheress overall. Like, I think her music is fantastic. Yeah. And I wouldn't be like this if it wasn't, sorry. She's a young black woman making music that nobody else is making.
It's facts.
And it's successful. It's charts well. She has a real fandom. Like, it's all real shit. And she's so far outside of what everybody else is doing. That's why I'm so ecstatic about it.
Keep our fingers crossed, okay? Because someone said those words once about someone who you don't like. Yeah. And so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Wait. Okay, and so no, I'm agree with you, but she's still very young, you know. Yeah. Let's hope 5 years from now
we're still talking about PinkPantheress.
She's not canceled or anything like that, and you know, because you know, right now it's very light skinned. It's very.
She's not light skinned. She's also not light skinned. She's light skinned on the cover, which is a little bit problematic. But we're not really talking about that. She looks a lot lighter in the current album cover than she does in the previous album cover.
And what I'm gonna say is let's pay attention, okay? Let's just stay calm for now. Okay. Right now, right? It's like I'm with you. I'm enjoying right now because right now where we're at with her, we may never get again. Okay. She hasn't dated anyone publicly yet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah, there hasn't been any entanglements, nothing.
You know what I'm saying? There's all sorts of things that can happen to a young woman in the public eye that will change how we think about her. And so I'm just enjoying the fact that none of that's happened yet. Yeah. You know, because she could be Doja Cat in 7 years for all I know.
Oh my God.
So love this album. PinkPantheress, heaven knows. If you're listening to this and you're somehow not a PinkPantheress fan, new to her music, leave us a comment. I want to know what you think. It's the first time you're hearing PinkPantheress. If Boys a Liar was your entry into her, I want to know what you think. Leave us a comment on YouTube. Of course, find us on YouTube at Album Mode. Of course, while you're over there, subscribe to us. We're not over here looking beautiful for no reason. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod on Twitter, at Album Mode Pod on TikTok, at Album Mode Pod on Instagram, and on all your podcast platforms. Subscribe, leave us a rating and a review. 5 stars. Not a single star less. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts. Thank you to Amazon Podcasts for showing us some love.
Yeah, that promo.
Yep. And of course, until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later, people.